as I was thinking and preparing about this and this message, and the Lord was just reminding me of all that we have gone through in the last year and a half or last couple of years with the pandemic and with a lot of other unrest in our country and racial tensions and really the difficulties that we have been through in our lives in the last couple of years, in the last several years. And then I look at and you look at people and you say, well, and God was saying, well, you look at people and you say, there's a new vaccine coming out. Why don't you go get it? You know that they're sick, right? So you tell them to go get the vaccine so they can what? They can get better. And then we also see people having difficulties in situations, and you tell them, well, you better go do this in order to help your situation to get better. So, and what we do is that we're seeing others as not being well. And we're offering them help in order for them to get well. We're pointing them in that direction. Well, Jesus is talking about some things here today. He's talking about the call of Levi, calling of an individual that was not one of the people's favorite people. He's calling those who are not the righteous. He's calling people that are sinners. And he's talking about pouring new wine into new wineskins and being prepared. Where are we today as we look at this message? Where do we fit in there? Do we look at ourselves? Or do we look at others? Or do we look at both? Let's get into the message. We're going to be looking at, we're continuing in our series in the Gospel of Mark, and we're in the second part of chapter 2. In Mark chapter 2, verses 14 through 22. So read along with me as I read. Chapter 2, verses 14 through 22. As he passed by, he saw Levi, the son of Alphaeus, sitting in the tax booth. And he said to him, "Follow me." And he got up and followed him. And it happened, as he was reclining at the table in the house, and many tax collectors and sinners were dining with Jesus and his disciples, for there were many of them, and they were following him. When the scribes and the Pharisees saw that he was eating with sinners and tax collectors, they said to his disciples, "Why is he eating and drinking with tax collectors and sinners?" And hearing this, Jesus said to them, "It is not those who are healthy who need a physician, but those who are sick. I did not come to call the righteous, but sinners." John's disciples and the Pharisees were fasting, and they came and said to him, "Why do John's disciples and the disciples of the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast?" And Jesus said to them, "While the bridegroom is with them, the attendants of the bridegroom cannot fast, can they? So as long as they have the bridegroom with them, they cannot fast. But the days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast in that day. No one sews a patch of unshrunk cloth on an old garment, otherwise the patch pulls away from it, the new from the old, and a worse tear results. No one puts new wine in old wineskins, otherwise the wine will burst the skins, and the wine is lost, and the skins as well. But one puts new wine into fresh wineskins. And may God add a blessing to the reading of his word." I was looking at, there's 3 specific points here that I wanted to look at. Was the call of Levi, call not the righteous but sinners, and new into fresh. our first point. The call of Levi, verses 14 and 15. As he passed by, verse 14, he saw Levi, the son of Alphaeus, sitting in the tax booth, and he said to him, "Follow me." And he got up and followed him. Well, as he passed by. So in other words, Jesus was walking along the road. And on this road, this was a very busy commercial road, and there was people there that would collect taxes for the Roman government. He would collect taxes from the people. Okay, so Levi, the son of Alphaeus, is sitting in the tax booth. So here he was, a Jewish person. Levi, we could surmise, was from the tribe of what? The Levites. And what were they? They were generally, they were the priests, and they were the religious, of the 12 tribes, they were the religious group. Well, Levi, who's Levi? Levi is Matthew. Levi was his name that was given to him by his parents. But Matthew comes from the name that Jesus gave, meaning gift of God. It's a little example. It was funny because I think of this story. I just thought of it just now. I had gotten I was in college and I needed a vehicle. And my brother gifted me the money to buy a vehicle so I could get it. And it was a pickup truck. It was a pre-pickup truck. And I needed it. And so my roommate at the time, who was actually now a pastor at a local church around here, said, "Well, why don't you just name it Matthew?" Which means gift of God. And we painted gift of God on the front of the hood of the vehicle. I just thought about that. That was pretty cool. So that's what Matthew means, but that's what Jesus was. And it's funny because Matthew was collecting from people, right? And now Matthew would be doing what? Giving them what? He was collecting money, and now he would be doing what? Giving what? Giving life to people through Jesus. Isn't that pretty cool? How Jesus does that kind of thing? Jesus comes in and he takes the hearts of people and he makes it for what they truly can be and the best of who they are. Rather than collecting and taking for themselves or taking for others, they are able to give of themselves, and give of God to others. But anyway, tax collectors were despised people. They were really, really hated by the people because they were taking their money for the Roman government and they were doing it for profit because they were making profit because tax collectors were generally pretty wealthy. And they profit for themselves at the expense of who? At the expense of the people. And they were taking it for the government that was oppressing the people. So the Romans were oppressing the people. They were taking the money because they were, because the Roman government needed money to operate, didn't they? They needed people to collect. It's like some people don't like the IRS. It's like, well, they were working, they were like the IRS, and people didn't like them necessarily. And so they had a really bad view from people. They didn't really like who these tax collectors were. And here he was sitting at the booth. But listen to this. This is something I think that's really important that we need to know. But and he said to him, "Follow me," and he got up and followed him. Now, Matthew, or Levi in this case, because Jesus hasn't officially called him Matthew yet, but was saying, here he was a tax collector. He knew he was despised by the people. People didn't like him. But he hears what? He hears who? He hears the voice of Jesus. What does Jesus say? Follow me. Follow me. Why would someone who's despised by everyone else want to follow God? Why would God want me? Everyone else hates me. Everyone else doesn't like me. Why would God want me? Right? Think about that. Why would God want me? What do I have to offer? I'm a tax collector. I'm taking money. I know who I am. I know what I'm doing. I know that I'm making a profit at the expense of people. Right? I know who I am. I know what I'm doing. And yet God is calling me, say, follow me. And what does he do? He drops everything and does what? Follows who? Jesus. Jesus doesn't care what you've done or what you're doing. All he asks is that you hear his voice, right? And you do what? You follow him. Jesus doesn't look necessarily at the outward person. Yeah, he looks at what the actions, what they do, what people say, but it doesn't hinder him from working and calling in their lives. Right? Now, what if you were one of those religiously, well, we're going to get into that, but what if you saw this man, tax collector, and you didn't like him? You were, let's say you happen to be a person who loved God, and you really loved the Lord, you loved God, and you wanted him to know about God. And you said, I'm not going to, God, he's a tax collector. You know what he's doing, God? You see what he's doing? He's making an expense, making a profit at my expense, at the people's expense. He's making, you know what kind of person he is, God? And you walk by on the other side. Just like the Good Samaritan. In this parable of the Good Samaritan. You won't take time to deal with that person because of what you see on the outside. We are so what? We are so focused on what? The outside. Aren't we? But who sees a man looks at the outward appearance, but who looks at the heart? God does, doesn't he? So if Jesus is calling someone, that person's ready, that person says, yeah, I know who I am, I know what I'm doing, but I don't want to remain the same. I hear the call of Jesus, I hear the voice of God. And what do? I come and I follow. God wants me. God wants me. God wants me. God wants me to follow him. I know what I've done. I know who I am. I know what's going on in my life. God wants me. Going. And some people are thinking, how can I ever change? How can I ever? I know the things I think. I know the things I do. I know the things that I've done. And I'm ashamed of those things. But yet God's calling me and says, you know what? Come follow me. I'll take care of those things. I'll take care of this. I'll help you with those things. I'll forgive you. And I'll help you overcome those things. Right? One of the things that we have to do, and this is what we're going to get into the message here, is that we need to see people with the eyes of Jesus. Right? Man looks at the outward appearance, but who looks at the heart? God does. So we need to look at people with the eyes of God. We need to look at the hearts of men. What does the scripture say? There is none righteous, no, not one. Right? We're all stinking sinners, guys. No matter how good and perfect we think we are on the outside, I'm a good Christian. I'm a good, strong, upright Christian. I put on my tie and I wear it to church. And I go to church every day and I do what I'm supposed to do. Well, good for you. But you're still a stinking sinner that needs God's grace in your life. Right? You need God's forgiveness. Just because you put on an appearance on the outside doesn't mean your heart's miserable on the inside. Right? People don't like to hear that message. They want to hear a sugar-coated, well, you're a good Christian. You do godly things. You put your tithe in the plate every week. You help out around the church. You make the appearance of being godly and righteous on the outside, but your heart needs stuff on the inside. But God sees that. That's the kind of stuff that God sees. And that's what we need to see with people. We need to see people are hurting on the inside. We need to see with His eyes. Yeah, people are not perfect, are they? People have sin in their lives. People have things going on in their life. Yet they're still sinners. And they need Jesus sometimes. And I always share this example, but when I was in college, I was backsliding. I was really in a bad state. I was really not in a good state. And I had a lot of things going on in my life at the time. And from the outward appearance, I didn't look desirable. My hair was kind of long at the time, which it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's okay. I wear a t-shirt. I wear jeans that are holy. Those are fashionable now. I walk around bare feet. Right? And people will look at me and say, who is this person? I was having issues sometimes with drugs and alcohol. Right? People would say, well, why? Yeah, look at the outward appearance. Right? But there were some people, a couple, matter of fact, who saw past the outward appearance, saw past the outward trappings, the outward things, and saw my need in my heart, because really inside I was really hurting. And I really wanted God, but I didn't know how to get back to God. And He took the time to help lead me and bring me to a place where, you know what? This is where you need to be. And here I am today, and God's working my life. I'm not perfect today. I'm not. God's still working. I'm a work in progress. We're all a work in progress. But God is doing something new in my heart. Continuing, a continual renewing in my heart. But we need to see people. We need to look at people. We need to look at the Levi's of this world. And we need to see their need for Jesus. Right? And it happened, listen to this in verse 15. And it happened that he was reclining at the table in his house. Whose house was he going to? Now, not only did he call him, but what did he do? He went to Levi's house. Why would Jesus want to go to the house of a stinking tax collector? It's one thing to have him follow you and walk around the streets and follow you. It's another thing to go to his home. Right? You go into your home, especially with this, and you break bread together, as it says here, and you're reclining at the table. Those tables, it's tables that were not that far above the ground. And they would all sit around on the floor, on the carpet, and they would eat from the table. And he was saying to him, and many tax collectors, so there wasn't just Matthew there, or Levi, but there was many other tax collectors, many other despised people, and sinners were dining with Jesus. So in other words, these people were notorious sinners, another obvious sinners, people that were known. In other words, you could tell that they were these people, maybe they were people, maybe they could have been robbers, they could have been prostitutes, they could have been anyone. Liars, stealers, they could have been anyone that had an obvious thing on the outside to show them that they weren't following the religious law. Maybe they broke a few Sabbaths, and people knew that, which is a big deal. And here Jesus was in their house, and to break bread in someone's house was showing that you were being friends with them, you were welcoming them. So Jesus going into their house and hanging with them and hanging out with them was showing that he was okay with being around them. Let me ask this question. Have we ever hung out or spent time with people that outwardly didn't look or we felt uncomfortable? Like a person that didn't fit necessarily. They weren't like the Christianese. They didn't talk. They didn't look necessarily like us. They didn't necessarily act like us, or they didn't do the things that we do. Didn't go to the places we go. Have we ever done that? By God's grace, I have. Right? Sometimes we have to put down our preconceived notions, biases, prejudices. We have to put them down so that we're willing to go to a place where we need people need Jesus. Right? Who knows the hearts of men and women? Jesus does. If the outside of a person is going to hinder us, a person who needs Jesus is going to hinder us from hearing about Jesus, how is that person going to hear about Jesus? If we're not the person to do it, we'll let someone else do it. You know, I'm just really thankful for my boys. They're gifts from the Lord. My wife is a wonderful gift from the Lord. Whenever we go into Philadelphia, we travel inside Philadelphia. We go in there from time to time. And sometimes in the route we go, there's homeless people that stand in the corner. Especially right before you come to the Ben Franklin Bridge, there's a little spot right there. Coming off I think it's the H Street. It's coming off of, I guess, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yes. Well, anyway, there's people out there with signs. I used to work with the homeless a lot in Philly, in Lang City, in Newark, so I understand the plight. But my kids will say, "Dad, can we give them something?" Because there's a compassion there for them. It's not that they feel a compassion and a need to be able to give something to them financially because they don't have anything. And I think what we need to do is that when we look at people, we can't let the outward appearance stop us from reaching out to and ministering to them and hanging, and even if God's calling us to spend time with them, get to know them. Develop a compassion for souls. Develop a compassion for people. Because that's what Jesus did. He knew the souls of men. He knew Matthew was hated by the people. He knew these other tax collectors were hated by the people. He knew these other sinners were hated by and notorious in life, but that didn't stop Jesus from showing compassion to them and calling them because he saw their hearts and seeing the hearts of people and developing a compassion for people. There's lost people out there. There's lost people out there that need Jesus, that need the love of Jesus, but we need to see past, but they're not dressed in a shirt and tie, or a shirt. They're not necessarily in our pews on Sunday morning. Right? I'll give you an example. I know this was a sister that I knew, this was some years ago, was where she saw that God had graced her with the ability to, she had some financial means. And there was some young ladies that were young, like teen girls, and who had gotten pregnant and had no other resources and no place to go. And so she opened up a home for some of these young ladies to be able to go to, where they could have their babies and they could, raise their babies and then be able to develop and find a place where they could, go on with their lives and successful. Some people wouldn't have wanted to work with those young ladies. Here they are, young ladies that are pregnant outside of wedlock. Okay. Who's going to want to minister to them? The Christian, oh, I can't do it. She's pregnant outside of wedlock. What a sinner she is, right? But deep down inside, she may realize, I need Jesus. I need God. Who's going to reach out? Maybe there's people out there, folks, that God is speaking to us about, that maybe we're not comfortable with. Maybe we're not. But God's telling us they're ready. They want. They're showing them the love of Jesus, and practical, and hanging with Him. What happens if you go with a group of people where they're cursing a lot? Is that going to prevent? Oh, I can't hear that. I can't. Well, they got mouths like sailors. Right? Well, they're doing things I can't be around those people. I'm a Christian. I can't hear that. They still need Jesus, right? People do. People are not perfect. We're not perfect. I'll give you a great example. John Newton. Who's John Newton? John Newton was a ship captain that would deliver slaves. He was in England to deliver slaves from the west coast of Africa and take them over to the United States. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound to save what? A wretch like who? Someone told him about the gospel. Someone told him and saw. Someone told him and saw him and said, he has a need. He knew what he was doing. And deep down he knew he needed Jesus. Right? And he heard the gospel call. And look what happened. That song is known by Christians around the world, and not even Christians, but even around the world, as a song that a lot of people know. Amazing grace. A lot of people can relate to that sound, that song. And a lot of people can relate to that song. I can. That was the first Christian hymn that I learned, that John Newton wrote. But someone had heard the voice of God and said, you know what, I need to talk to him about Jesus. And look what happened. Let's go on here. And when the scribes, in verse 16, when the scribes and Pharisees saw him eating with sinners and tax collectors, they said to his disciples, why is he eating and drinking with tax collectors and sinners? And again, what were they doing there? They were saying, why? Why is he doing that? Why is Jesus eating with tax collectors and sinners? Why is he doing that? What were they doing? They were judging from the outside. They weren't fitting the mold of what we think is good, of what they thought was good Jewish, of following their law, their interpretation of the law, not God's interpretation of the law. Their traditions, their rituals, their way of doing things. They weren't following it. They weren't doing those things that they were used to. And they were looking on the outside. And they were judging on the outside, rather than judging a man's heart. And Jesus responds. And Jesus uses sarcasm in such a wonderful way. And there's nothing wrong with sarcasm if it's used in the right way. And Jesus uses sarcasm and he hits the point right on. Right? And he says, it is not the righteous who need healing, but sinners. Boom. Hits them right between the eyes. It hits the point that it's not the righteous who need sinners, is it? It's sinners. If you're not sick, you're not going to go to a doctor, are you? If someone's not sick, you're not going to refer them to a doctor, are you? Right? If you're doing well, I go to the doctor. If I'm not feeling well and I need to go, I go to the doctor. I ask the doctor to get me checked out so I can be okay. If you see someone else, and this is where my illustration comes in from the beginning. If you see someone else who's sick, like in the pandemic, you tell them what to do, and you tell them, well, maybe you need to go in the vaccine. This vaccine is good, and you should go over here and do it. You tell them what to do, you refer them to the doctor, right? You refer them to get their vaccine. So the purpose that you're referring them to is so that they can do what? They can get well, right? Right? You tell somebody to go to the doctor so they can get well. That's the whole purpose of the point. Is that, but if they're not sick, then you won't tell them to go to the doctor. But the thing is that, folks, we need to look at people as maybe not being well. We're not well, folks. We're all in need of Jesus in our lives. And that's why folks, and especially folks who are having needs, they see, yeah, you know, we need to look at the needs of people's hearts rather than the outward trappings of what's going on. Yeah, they need Jesus. They need Jesus. They need Jesus. And we need to refer them to Dr. Jesus, the best physician in the whole wide world who can heal the soul. And when the soul is healed, then everything else will fall into place. Right? You heal a man's soul, you work in a man's soul, and everything else will fall into place. Do you need medical things? Yes, sure. We need other things? Yes, sure. But ultimately, when you heal a man's soul, when you introduce a man or a woman to Jesus, he does what? At the core of everything that we are is our soul, and who we are and our being. And this outward body is not really us. Our soul is who we are as a person that will live on for eternity. This will go in the dust whenever our time comes. But it's the soul of who we are that will go on for eternity, and that's where we need Jesus. Because when we have Jesus and we introduce and we see people as needing Jesus, we need to refer them to who? Dr. Jesus. And that's what Jesus was doing. He was seeing people as sick, who need a physician, and who need to go to the doctor, and he was leading them to himself so that he can bring healing. And that's what he calls us to do. Look past the healings in our life, to look past the things in other people's lives and say, they need Jesus. They need healing with Jesus. And they need to have Him heal their sin. Because Dr. Jesus is the only one who can do that. But also here, and here's another point here, is that we need to look at ourselves as saved. Because none of us are perfect by any means. If you think you've arrived, then you've taken a couple steps backwards. Because none of us arrive, no matter how good we are on the outside, all of us again are stinking sinners who need the heart of Jesus to change us. No matter how good we appear on the outside. We need Jesus, folks. We need Jesus. We need Jesus. We need Jesus. We need Jesus to change us. Well, let's go on here. Let's go on to our last and final point. New into fresh. And this is where the rubber meets the road, folks. John's disciples and the Pharisees were fasting. They came in and said to him, "Why do John's disciples and the disciples of the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast?" And Jesus said to them, "The bridegroom is with them, and the attendants of the bridegroom cannot fast, can they? So as long as they have the bridegroom with them, they cannot fast." What's the purpose of fasting? Fasting is a means of mourning, and it's showing that you're mourning. And that's the purpose of fasting. But Jesus was with them, so that at that point, there was no need to fast. But there was going to come a day where he was going to be God from them, and then that's where he was going to be taken from them, and that's when they needed to fast. But another purpose of fasting, though, is to gain spiritual strength. God's allowed me to gain to fast for longer periods of time and to seek Him in a manner that is so that I can go without food or whatever, however type of fast God has shown me to do. I've endeavored to do that, and for spiritual purposes and spiritual reasons. And part of that is to bring strength to us, but part of that is to get that spiritual strength against the schemes of the enemy. And so fasting is a preparation. Fasting helps us to be able to become in a place where, with prayer and fasting, where we become, God gives us spiritual muscles, so to speak. It helps us to gain spiritual strength, to become stronger in our faith, as fasting is coupled with prayer. Okay? So fasting has its purpose in our lives. But why do we need to become spiritually strong? What does the enemy do? The enemy comes against us, right? The enemy tells us lies. He's a liar and the father of lies, John chapter 8 says. So he tells us a lot of lies. He tells us to try to take us down, tries to do things in our lives. He tries to teach us things that are not right. We develop what? We develop attitudes, don't we, towards other people. We've seen it in this country happen. Where people are not nice to each other, where people are prejudiced and there's racial things that go on. Those things are things that are developed in our hearts. And the enemy has done that. And the enemy has caused a lot of that. Right? It's true. So how are we going to overcome those things? Right? How will we overcome those things if we look at people and with those attitudes and those things in our hearts? How are we going to overcome them in our own strength? How are we going to overcome the attitude of someone that maybe you don't like, that from the outside looks bad? Are you going to be able to come over, I'm going to overcome this in my own strength, in my own power, my own might? How are you going to overcome that? It's only going to come as you develop spiritual muscles in your body, in your being, in your person. To be able to overcome that. We fight not against what? Flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers. Ephesians chapter 6. So if you want to overcome those things in your heart that stop you or prevent you from calling other people to come to Jesus, then fasting can be a part of that. However God shows you to do that. So you can develop the spiritual muscles so you can overcome those things in your life that are hindering you from calling and having other people and relationships in your life. So that you can become more perfect. Not that we are perfect, but we can become more perfect. That progressive sanctification. And we're going to go on. This is where, and you look at the wineskins. And so how does this all fit in with the wineskins? Well, you need to develop spiritual muscles, right? and it comes through fasting. But number two is that Jesus talks about the wineskins, new wineskins. Well, how does that all fit into all of this? It doesn't seem like it fits, does it? But it does. We look at, back then they used to use goat skins to carry wine. And so they would get a fresh goat skin, and they would sew it together, and they would pour the wine in it, and then the wine would do what? The wine would, the grape juice, the juice would ferment, and it would become wine. And so that's what they would use in order to drink the wine. Well, what happened if it was an old wineskin? It was already used. Or the wineskin developed a hole. Let's say you use the wine to get it ready and you use it multiple times, and it starts to develop a hole. So you get a piece of new wine, get a new piece of new goat cloth, and you sew it on it. And you pour fresh wine in. Well, the old one is going to tear. You skin around the old skin around because it's been used so many times. And you put that new patch on there, and it just doesn't hold. And then what ends up happening is that the new wine is going to be poured out. Right? And it's going to be wasted. It's going to be gone. So, with all of that, God says new wine needs to be poured into new wineskins. Fresh wineskins. You can't hatch up new wines at the beginning. You can't put an old patch, new patch on something old. It has to be new. And this is interesting because this is right around Pentecost. Okay. Right around Pentecost, right around this time, when we celebrate Pentecost and the moving of the Holy Spirit. So, in the upper room, and what God was doing in the upper room. And new wine is of His Spirit. In other words, what's going to be able to help us to change? We need to change our way of thinking. If we're going to be able to reach out to people who may not look desirable to us, we may not agree with on the outside, may have a mouth that's not as desirable as we would like it to be. They may not do the things that we may not like or are comfortable with. How's it going to change? Is God going to be able to change us if we hold on to our old thoughts, our old ways, our old attitudes? Is He going to be able to pour new wine of the Holy Spirit into that old attitude of us? What's going to happen with the Holy Spirit? What's going to happen with the work of the Holy Spirit in us? It's going to be wasted if you just try and put a patch on. We have to be able to we have to become new in our thinking. With our traditions, our rituals, and the way we look at things, the way we do things, the way we have to rethink it. We have to become new in what God is doing. We have to move with what God is doing. Folks, we cannot hold on. We cannot live in 1956. That podium is from 1961. We're not living in 1961. We're living in 2021. That's 60 years ago. We're not living there. Are we? Where are we living right now? We're living in 2021, and God is doing a move in 2021, and He's not holding on to our traditions and our rituals. We have ways of doing things, and we're not really willing to let go of those things. The way of seeing things, the way of doing things, the way of operating in things, the way of looking at people. And that's not going to fly with God, because God will try to move His Spirit and pour things in, but it's going to pour out, and it's going to burst, and it's going to be a waste. But we have to become new wineskins in the sense that we have to have our attitudes changed. We have to begin to allow God to have the attitude, have His attitude. So we can pour the fresh wine of the Holy Spirit so we can do what He wants to do in us and through us. And that the wineskins will hold and will be fresh. And when people drink it, they'll become refreshed, right? Right? So we have to come to a place where we're willing to become new wineskins. God, change my way of thinking. Change my prejudice. Change my traditions. Change the way I do things. And people will get comfortable with it. I don't care if you get uncomfortable with it. I don't care about traditions. I don't care about rituals. I don't care about any of that junk. Because it is junk. To God, God's not into traditions. He's into life. And we need to allow God to come to a place. He's not about appearances. Keeping up with the appearances. Keeping up with the Joneses. He's not about that. He's about changing the hearts of men. And He wants to save souls of men. And He wants to use us. And we need to be willing to be able to be changed for that. Are we willing to do that? Are we willing to be those new wineskins that have fresh wine in them? So He can do what He can do, so we can love people and we can see people saved. And we see people change and people healed and people brought to new life. But that's what it's going to take, because it's going to take a great deal of work. But the reality is that when we do it, we allow God to do it, and we become those fresh wineskins, this place will be full and overflowing, folks. Right? I need to be changed. I know I'm not a perfect person. I know me. I know me too. But I want Jesus to change me, and I'm willing for Him to change me. I will be willing for Jesus to change us, so we can love people, see people saved. Amen. Let's go ahead and pray. If you're a sinner, if you're someone here today that doesn't know Jesus, just pray this prayer. Jesus, I know that I know that I got things in my life, Jesus, and I'm not right. I know I've sinned against you. I know I've hurt you, Jesus. I know, Jesus, I've said things, I've done things, I've thought things. God, just please forgive me and show me mercy. Show me mercy, God. Show me mercy. Forgive me, God, for my sins. Come into my life and be my Lord and be my Savior. Please, God, come into my life and be my Lord and my Savior. I receive you and I thank you, Jesus. For those of us who do know you, Jesus, please forgive us of our sins. Please forgive us of the things that we thought, attitudes we held on to, traditions that we've held on to. And please forgive us. Help to change our hearts, O God, so we can love other people, love you, love other people. Be willing to change, be willing to do whatever you want us to do. Help us to be those fresh wineskins this morning, dear Jesus. Please, please forgive us and show us mercy. And that your joy and your peace be in our hearts, O God. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name, your kingdom. Your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our sins, as we also forgive those who sin against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever. Father, mission people now through peace and through joy. In Jesus' name.